Hey guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts, and today in the shop we're going to take a look at how to properly grease and adjust the tension on new front wheel bearings for front disc brake cars. Today we're going to be installing the Street Series disc brake conversion on the front of our 1969 Chevelle that we're doing a ground up restoration on. So let's go ahead and get started by taking a look at the tools that we're going to need to perform this function properly. Okay, the tools and supplies that you're going to need to perform this process are straightforward. It includes a full roll of paper towels because anytime you grease front wheel bearings, it's a messy procedure. A full can of brake cleaner. We're going to want to clean any kind of grease that we may put on the friction surface area of the rotor after we install it, so have a full can. A tub or a tube of grease that's specifically meant for disc brake wheel bearings. There's a difference, so just verify that you're using the proper grease for that. Something to drive the grease seal. You can either use a dead blow hammer, a seal driver, or in a pinch you can use a piece of wood. But the biggest thing is we just want to make sure that we drive it square and don't damage it. So if you have one of these seal drivers, I highly recommend it. The wrench we're going to use is a 1 1/16 open end wrench. This will allow us to adjust the preload and the tension on the wheel bearing and on the castle nut after we've installed the greased bearings. And then finally, a set of disposable latex gloves. Look, this is going to be a greasy, slimy procedure, so anything you can do to keep yourself a little bit cleaner when it comes time to actually assembling the parts on the car is all for the best. Highly recommend it. You can thank me later. The parts shown are included in every Right Stuff front disc brake kit offered by First Place Auto Parts. It includes new front brake rotors, high quality Timken inner and outer wheel bearings, inner grease seals, thrust washers, a new castle nut, new cotter pin, and new dust caps to keep the grease in and the dirt and water out of your new bearings. The first step is packing your new roller bearings with grease. What we are working to achieve is to literally fill the open spaces between the bearing races and the rollers with disc brake grease. Start by placing a generous amount of wheel bearing grease in the palm of your opposite hand. Take the bearing, and I like to start from the back, and we'll work the grease into the bearing through the gaps between the inner and outer races by pressing the grease in there. Next, I will flip the bearing in the palm of my hand and force the grease through the front of the bearing. Then roll it, front to back, side to side, until all the voids are packed with grease. Next, I will wipe off the excess grease and set it aside for installation on the car on a clean place. Next, I will go ahead and grease the outer wheel bearing using the same procedure, being sure that it is packed with grease too. Add more grease to the palm of your hand if necessary to ensure each set of bearings is completely greased. Set the bearing aside on a clean surface and the bearings are ready to be installed in the rotor. The next step is to install the inner wheel bearings and wheel seal. Note that the new rotors will already have the inner and outer races installed into the rotor, so you will not be using the ones included with the Timken bearings. Start by applying a generous coating of disc brake grease to the outer race of the rotor. To eliminate the possibility of corrosion, I also apply a light coat of grease to the inner hub area of the rotor, located in between the inner and outer wheel bearing race. Next, we insert our previously packed inner wheel bearing, which is larger of the two bearings. Lightly wipe off any grease down into the backside of the bearing surface. The next step is to install the inner grease seal into the rotor. Start by placing the oil seal flat side up into the end of the rotor. You can use a large socket of the same diameter of the seal, or a seal driver, or a block of wood to seat the seal into the recess. Making sure the seal is square in the bore, gently tap the seal evenly into place, being careful not to damage it. Inspect the seal after installation to ensure that the rubber lip is in good condition and the seal is seated evenly all the way around. The next step is to slide the rotor onto the spindle and insert our already packed outer wheel bearing, which is the smaller of the two bearings, followed by the thrust washer and the castle nut. Next, we are going to adjust the wheel bearing preload by tightening the castle nut. The GM factory service manual for Camaro and Chevelle recommends turning the rotor while tightening the castle nut to 12 foot-pounds, and once you feel the castle nut get snug, you want to back off the nut counterclockwise 1 flat of the castle nut in relationship to the hole for the cotter pin to go through the spindle. Next, we check that your rotor spins freely and does not have any rust spots, and you're ready to insert the new cotter pin. Hey guys, it was a great day in the shop. We got our wheel bearings packed, we got the preload adjusted, we got the rotor installed. All that's left now is to hang the caliper with the new brake pads, put the wheel on, and hit the road. I appreciate you joining us and watching this video. If you found it informative, consider hitting the subscribe button so that you get to see every time we add a new how to install video, a new product review video, or we're going to be going to a lot of cool car guy events that I'm sure you're going to want to see. Follow First Place Auto Parts on Facebook and YouTube, and go to our always open, easy to use First Place Auto Parts website at fpautoparts.com anytime you need parts for your American muscle car or truck. You will literally find thousands of restoration and performance parts to keep your car on the road and keep your project moving forward. Until next time, thanks for watching. Keep the hammer down and keep it between the guardrails.